embattled French President Emmanuel Macron is on the brink. The French government has collapsed, and many are wondering how Macron is going to survive this political crisis. And one of those waiting in the wings is none other than the one and only Marine Le Pen, leader of the National Rally. So, is this her moment? Well, we are going to find out. Greetings, everyone. Come on in, one and all. Great to have you all here with us as the old, tired, worn-out liberal international order collapses right in front of our very eyes. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Well, President Macron addressed the French nation just hours ago and assured them that he is not going anywhere. He's absolutely not going to resign under any circumstances in the shadow of France's crumbling government. If you don't know, the Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, has officially resigned after having served as Prime Minister for only a few months. He's actually the shortest serving Prime Minister in France's history. And it was, in fact, the first successful no confidence vote for a French politician since 1962, what they did yesterday. So first no confidence vote in 60 years to pass. Last night, the French government collapsed after this no confidence vote passed with significant support fueled by the so-called far right, the National Rally, led by the one and only Marine Le Pen. We'll get more into Le Pen's role in all this in a moment. Now, Michel Barnier is but the latest casualty in the complete political instability that's just ravaging France. And in many ways, and this is going to be my overall argument to you in this video, President Macron really only has himself to blame for this. If this really is the end of the road for Macron's presidency, he will only have himself to blame. He engaged in some pretty sophisticated Game of Thrones maneuvers behind the scenes that in many respects, it's responsible for this political crisis. It goes back to the summer, okay? Just last summer, during the Paris, those pathetic Paris Olympics, 2 weeks, there's a 2-week window. It's the last week of June going to the first week of July. And what France did is they held their 2 rounds of national elections. And in the first round, I mean, everything looked like the so-called far-right parties, they're always called in the media, the National Rally Party. It looked like they were going to win the elections in a blowout. They won by far the most seats in the first round of elections, and they were poised to win easily the parliamentary majority in the second round. But that's when the, shall we say, the behind-the-scenes shenanigans started to play out. Macron convinced, get this, Macron convinced more than 200 of his own party's members, his party called the Renaissance Party. He convinced over 200 of them to drop out of the second round and turn around and endorse all the far left candidates who were running. They're part of the what's called the New Popular Front, led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon. And we're talking pretty far left here, guys. I mean, they even make the socialists cringe, okay? But what Macron wanted was for them to team up and beat Marine Le Pen and National Rally. And it worked. Macron successfully thwarted the remaining National Rally candidates, the so-called far-right candidates, from coming to power. And he did it by instead, ironically, putting the far left into power. Now, no party got an outright majority in the French Assembly. So there's got to be some coalition building. And that's the job of the prime minister. And what the far left party, the New Popular Front, wanted was for Macron to appoint one of their own as prime minister. The problem is that if Macron appointed a far left prime minister, that would mean they would repeal Macron's entire economic program. They were all promising to gut Macron's economic policies during the campaign, which of course he doesn't want. It would be a black mark forever for his legacy. So guess what Macron did? Macron turned around and appointed a prime minister, this fellow Michel Barnier, who was supported by National Rally, the so-called far right. Again, you can't make this stuff up. In order to thwart the rise of the right, Macron sides with the left. But in order to thwart the governance of the left, he sides with the right. And of course, in the process, he's made everyone upset. So then you got to ask, why on earth would Marine Le Pen and National Rally rise up and vote against this prime minister that they previously supported? Why would they vote to collapse the French government? Well, again, this is where things get very intriguing. This is real life Game of Thrones. Marine Le Pen is not interested in toppling a mere prime minister, Barnier. Marine Le Pen is interested in toppling once and for all President Macron. Now, the key to understanding all of this is understanding French politics. And French politics, it's basically a two-tier system. The French Assembly, which is led by the prime minister, they basically run the day-to-day affairs of the nation. He's in charge of the domestic affairs. And then you have the presidency, Macron. So he's really, how do I put it? He's sort of a meta leader in a sense. You know, he's supposed to embody the moral vision for the nation. And he's in charge of France's position in international affairs. So he's the leader of France for the world. And, you know, he's supposed to be kind of above it all, almost monarchical, but alas. But as we saw, the two tiers of government are obviously inextricably linked in that the president has the authority. It's the president that has the authority to appoint the prime minister. And Marine Le Pen has come out and said openly that right now, President Macron has only three options. This is Marine Le Pen. So this is the way she's thinking here. And she's right, by the way. He can dissolve the government and order new elections, just like he did back in the summer. He can reshuffle the government and try to create a new governing coalition. Or, and this is the only other remaining option, he can resign. And with these three options laid out by Marine Le Pen, we can now see how she's eyeing for the presidential prize. She's eyeing for the presidential palace because the first option is completely untenable, given the fact that the French Constitution only allows for one national election per year. Remember, this is European politics. They could probably end up having elections every other week. So they only have one once a year. So the earliest would be next summer, 2025. The second option, trying to reshuffle the coalitions in order to have a functioning government, that's going to be a hard order. It appears almost impossible. I'll walk you through those options in a moment, but there's really nothing that Le Pen's party, National Rally, are going to go along with. And there's very little that the far left, the New Popular Front, that they're going to go along with. So it looks like the only government that can work is one that has National Rally's support or the New Popular Front support. And they're both signaling that support ain't coming. And so then that only leaves one other option, Macron's resignation. And what do you know? Take a look at the latest polls. The French overwhelmingly want Macron gone now. 60% of the country, 6 in 10, want him to resign. They do not want him to finish out his 2027, his tenure. And so Marine Le Pen, I think, is putting, all her ducks in order, as it were. And did I just mix metaphors? Or probably. But she's seeing her chance. If Macron resigns, that's her green light to win the presidency because of all the presidential candidates. She's the one, the available one. She's the one that polls by far the highest. Now, as I mentioned just hours ago, Macron he came on, did a national speech, got on television live. He has officially ruled out any chance that he's going to resign. Nope, not happening. He said he's going to serve until the rest of his term, until 2027. And so the only other option he has, given the three that are before him, is to try to find some way of creating a coalition that's going to work inside a deeply fractured French parliament. Now, he could conceivably renominate Michel Barnier, who was just ousted. Despite his government collapsing, he could still renominate them. renominate him. Most argue that's a very, very tall order. That's probably not going to happen. And even if it did, we'll see another government collapse in the next several hours. He could appoint a far leftist prime minister from the Popular Front Party. That's what he was originally supposed to do. That's how they banded together during the elections. But then the problem for Macron is that he and his party would have to abandon either Macron's policies, or the far left party would have to abandon their anti-Macron agenda. In other words, they would have to abandon everything they campaigned on. That's the only way they're going to have a governing majority. So one is going to have to give. It may happen, but again, it's a tall order. Macron could appoint in European politics what's called a technocratic government, which would actually involve bureaucrats from outside the governing parties coming in and governing with the assent of the majority. Italy had a technocratic government for 2 years when their government collapsed before Giorgia Meloni and the Brothers of Italy rose to power. That's probably dead on arrival. We'll see again, but I think that option is probably dead on arrival given the partisan divide. And finally, Macron could try to form a kind of centrist coalition by appealing to the more center wing of each one of the parties and try to alienate both the far left and the far right, so-called. Again, that's risky in that it could easily end up alienating members of every party from their more dominant and faithful ideological colleagues who could easily band together against them. So this is all another way of saying Macron does not appear to have any viable options. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to pull something off, but as things stand, Macron is unfortunately reaping what he sowed over these last several months. He connived to keep the right out of power by making an alliance with the left, only to turn around and make a governing alliance with the right to keep the left from wiping out his economic reforms. All of this, ultimately, I would argue, all of this instability is Macron's fault. And so if his own presidency is at the brink, ultimately, he only has himself to blame. We all have an opportunity to finally stop big tech and government overreach. It's happening, gang. Patriots are reclaiming our privacy. And you have no better way of protecting yourself than with SLNT. That's short for silent. Silent's Faraday products block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key FOBs to phones and laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today by clicking on that link below or going to slnt.com/Turley to save 15% plus free shipping on all qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/Turley for 15% off and free shipping on all qualified orders. slnt.com/Turley.
I was targeted, discriminated against, shamed and fired from one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the world. They fired me at the height of my career, and I went out to, I know, Disney. They deserve that. Thank you. Thank you. You guys have been paying attention to my story. I appreciate that. I mean, they've gone out of the way to make an example out of me, but I think by the grace of God, He's helping me make an example out of them. I'm currently suing Disney with Elon Musk's and X's backing. I have never even spoken to Mr. Musk, but this kindness he has done me and many others, I feel is something you only see in the movies. I am so grateful to him and the X platform. Without X, we truly would not know the truth of what is happening around the world.
Wow, amazing. You know, in our current cultural battle, One of the most unlikely ideologues pushing radical wokeness turns out to be Disney. You know, Mickey Mouse, Bambi, Cinderella. Yeah, that Disney. They've been one of the most egregious advocates for a leftist woke agenda imaginable. Disney's executives have chosen to take the culture wars to our kids, push radical ideologies into their impressionable imaginations, and perpetuate harmful narratives that undermine the very values that we hold dear as a civilization. I mean, ironically, values that Disney supposedly once held dear. And that's why we're seeing people like Elon Musk, who's seen one of his own kids succumb to the woke mind virus, suing Disney. He literally is attacking the woke mind virus everywhere he goes. And that includes the world of entertainment, particularly children's entertainment. But to put it bluntly, this indoctrination attempt by not only Disney, but many others, it's not by accident. It's a calculated strategy employed by these corporate behemoths that have long held a monopoly over children's entertainment. They've exploited the trust and loyalty of families who are unwittingly funding this ideological onslaught through subscriptions, movie purchases, and the like. Yet when confronted about their controversial content, Disney remains largely silent, emphasizing that the narrative they push is crafted for acceptance, while genuine inquiries about its ramifications are ironically dismissed and excluded. As more families fall prey to Disney's stealthy infiltration, I think we're all aware of its consequences. Our children are becoming vessels for leftist propaganda, molded to believe in divisive ideologies that are even now ripping families in our society apart. So what can we do about this? Well, joining me today is N.D. Wilson, a best-selling author with children's books and nonfiction books that have been published in more than 20 languages. He's somewhat of a masked crusader in the realm of children's content. And he's not only worked with some very large publishing houses in New York, but he's also the owner of Canon Press, one of my favorite publishers. Just click on that link below to check out the treasure trove of books, videos, and resources that they have for you. Nate, my friend, welcome. Great to see you again.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's awesome to have you here. So what's going on? I mean, you're on the front lines of this. How deep, in your opinion, I mean, you've seen it. How deep does the woke agenda go in these larger corporations and publishers, particularly those who are marketing to children?
So I think there's two general categories in Hollywood, especially. This exists in New York publishing, but just a little differently. In Hollywood, you have the people who are servants of mammon, like they want money. They're trying to make money. They want more money. They want their share prices going up, etc. They just want mammon. As a Christian conservative, I have like translation software for people like that. I can interface with people like that because I also am trying to make profitable things. Right. But because of
it's common ground. Yeah.
There's some common ground. Now, at the same time, I also have an ideology. I have a faith. And so there are things I make not to make money. There are things I make just to try to influence the culture and just to try to influence the world for good. They have the same category where their whole virtue system is idolatrous and false and straight up cancer. And so there's all these things they're doing not to make money, but just to corrupt, honestly, the next generation and generations to come. They're doing it ideologically and religiously, just like I'm doing it ideologically and religiously over here. Those people are impossible for me to interface with. Like we can't work together. We can't interface because they're trying to sacrifice children to Molech. And they're not trying to, make some mammon. They're not just trying to make money. So when they're trying to make money, I can interface with them. Because I happen to have what America wants and the kind of content that will make money. When they start doing these self-destructive, self-harming things like firing Gina, things like that, they are no longer trying to make money. So if you think about it, Mandalorian was kind of a big show, right? When my ninja cartoon dropped on Netflix, we ended up crushing the Mandalorian. Like Hello Ninja, like more binged, more co-viewed. Like we were just like apples to apples. in the equivalent of like streaming digital ratings. We were ahead of The Mandalorian.
Wow.
Now, that's a little ninja cartoon that was just wholesome. I mean, when I pitched it to Netflix, I said it's the Spaceman Spiff Sunday Calvin and Hobbes colored Flights of Fancy without the cynicism. You know, I'm trying to infuse wonder and all these kinds of things in the viewer. It doesn't like make headlines. It's not a big thing. In terms of like cultural impact, like The Mandalorian was, it was a far more significant show in many ways. But in terms of eyeballs, you know, it's not quite what it seems like when we actually go out there and fight and compare ratings, viewers, movies like Twister, Maverick, things like that are made to make money, do very, very well. So this last summer, one of the top 5 blockbusters was Twisters. You know, it was just a tornado movie in which they didn't say anything at all about climate change. Nothing. And there was a bunch of outrage. And if I recall correctly, I think in the box office, it outperformed everything except for big animated franchises, and I think that Deadpool crap. So it was up there. The thing that's really interesting is you still have a bunch of people trying to make money, and you have then a bunch of people who are just trying to reshape culture in their own image. And half of them are my enemies, and we end up in friction. They hate what I do, I hate what they do, and half of them I can work with. And some of them even switch hats, and I can work with them sometimes, and I can't work with them other times. You know, and that's just kind of how the whole thing breaks down. But it is deep in there. It's deep in their bones. And if you make something subversive and rotten and cancerous in Hollywood, you do get invited to the right cocktail parties. You do get, you know, lateral moves and promotions, and there's all the social rewards for that kind of thing, even when your show or movie fails to actually reach the marketplace effectively.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I mean, at some point, this isn't a sustainable business model. I mean, they can't keep just pushing out all this Moloch stuff. I mean, at some point, the money's just going to dry up, isn't it?
And it has started. So it has kind of swung. And the thing that's interesting here and what Elon's doing, while I'm very grateful for Elon, I doubt we disagree about Disney much. I'm genuinely a little nervous about lawsuits like this. So I have a streamer, Canon Plus, that is designed to reach families, edify families, provide educational material and entertainment, wholesome entertainment. And it's like, this is supposed to be a tool for conservative Christian families to really utilize in the home. I don't want Elon to establish legal precedent that would get me in trouble for firing somebody who talked like Ketanji Brown Jackson. So if I have somebody that I'm putting in a show on my platform, and I'm going to spend my money putting them on my platform, and then they start talking about how denying gender transition for children is like is basically like denying interracial marriage.
Right.
I want to fire that person.
Right.
That person, I'm platforming them. They're running their mouth against my values, against my faith, and I want to fire them. Right. Now we go over to Disney, and Disney has Gina, who's saying things that they claim are abhorrent, but are not abhorrent. And so they fire her because she doesn't align with their virtues. Right. So the legal fight needs to be over what is abhorrent. He was saying abhorrent, not can I fire somebody for what they say as a private individual.
Not some kind of neutral arbiter in that sense. Yeah,
exactly. So can I fire an employee who is undercutting me verbally?
Right.
I hope so. Right. I want to do that tomorrow.
Right.
Nobody in mind. I've got nobody in mind.
All right. Now we're getting really serious here. Let's go. No, and then also it encourages the building of a parallel economy, parallel structures, and so on, which you guys are doing over at Canon Plus. That's a nice pivot. Can you talk us through how we should think about stories and like the moral imagination, things like that? I think you talk about stories as soul food in your podcast. Yeah. How do those stories shape us and form us?
So that when you're young, when you're little, you don't yet have your aspirations, your desires, your loves, your loyalties, and your hates. And so when your parents read with you, when they tell you stories, when they tell you Bible stories, when they read you stories from history, each of these stories will honor particular behaviors and particular characters, and each of these stories will identify villains and cowardice, and so on. And so when you were talking about Disney at the beginning, Disney's danger goes way back. I coach basketball, and even recently I was telling guys, like, let's not be Disney princesses. Like, nobody follow your heart. Nobody follow your heart here. Like, sacrifice for the team. This isn't about you. This isn't personal fulfillment, all that kind of thing. So Disney has been saying, follow your heart, rebel against your parents. Your parents
Several
don't know
decades, yeah.
For a long time, right?
Yeah.
And now what they're doing is they're catechizing young loves and loyalties and disloyalties. So they start to shape and mold the disloyalties of their young viewers who want to be like their characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have kids who become more and more disloyal to their parents,
Mm-hmm.
and more loyal to the culture, to the zeitgeist, to whatever happens to be, whatever wind is blowing. And so when you tell kids wholesome stories, good stories that are true, good, and beautiful, that are inspiring, Narnia Chronicles, Lord of the Rings, things like that, and Bible stories, and then stories of great heroes out of history, you are shaping their aspirations. When they become teenagers, when they become adults, they will have admiration for those things which are admirable, and they will despise those things which are despicable. If you're doing it right, if you're giving them a wholesome diet. And so kind of like if you think about RFK's MAHA movement, like let's stop ingesting chemicals. Let's make America healthy again. Sure, fine, knock yourselves out. The thing I really care about is doing the same thing for the mind and for the imagination.
Yeah.
And so when people walk away from marriages, when people walk away from children, when the entire pro-choice abortion movement is fueled by self-fulfillment, believing in yourself, and wanting to be a Disney princess, like it just is, and you're willing to murder someone to do it. Somebody else doesn't matter at all. Their life is meaningless, totally meaningless, because you have a dream. I have a dream of being a branch,
and you have a heart to follow. And
I've got a heart to follow, and my heart wants to be a branch manager at Dunder Mifflin, and so I have to murder someone to not get in the way of that. It's
Dunder Mifflin, man. Ooh, ouch.
It's broken. It's really broken. The whole system's broken. And so it is essential that parents be telling their kids stories that are good. They give them strong bones at the imagination and the soul level. And so when I talk about stories are soul food, I want the right stories, strengthening souls and imaginations, and shaping people's aspirations, their loves, their loyalties, and their disloyalties. So are they ultimately loyal to the self, or are they loyal to a standard outside the self? Do they admire the true, good, and beautiful and aspire to that? Or do they think that beauty and truth and goodness are all relative and just really whatever? And so you can castrate a 10-year-old, sure, because they felt like it right then.
Right.
And that fork in the road starts when you're reading aloud to your kids on your lap and they're little.
Yes. Yeah.
It starts there.
Yeah.
And then it leads hopefully to adults who are really hard to lie to, really hard to deceive, and really hard for tyrants to govern.
Yeah.
Because they've been fed a healthy diet of the right kind of stories that have strengthened them and prepared them for their own moments as characters when they're on stage. So during the COVID shutdowns, I'll brag on my oldest son. Both my sons were involved. We had illegal arrests made at a psalm sing.
Yeah.
My sons went out and protested. They went out and were protested. They put these easily removable, non-damaging vinyl protest stickers on poles. They ended up against cop cars and handcuffs.
Wow.
Criminally prosecuted for the first time in the history of our town ever, for posting a sign or a flyer.
And just so everyone knows, you're not in downtown San Francisco. I mean, you're in deep red Idaho. I mean, this is
Moscow, Idaho, deep red Idaho. And my son's working on an article right now about local lawfare and the importance to exterminate it everywhere. But they protested these illegal arrests. The arrests were established to be illegal. It's not a matter of opinion, federal judge, everything else. They end up in cuffs. They end up criminally prosecuted. My older son's case is now on appeal, going on appeal to SCOTUS.
Wow.
It's like on the way up, because this is the only time my town's cops have ever put somebody in handcuffs for posting a flyer on a pole, where they post yard sale signs all the time, has been when he posted a protest sticker protesting illegal behavior during the COVID crackdowns.
Illegal behavior by the ones who ended up arresting him, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So he had our town's Moscow, Idaho. He put up a hammer and sickle, said Soviet Moscow, and then the slogan that they were using for their crackdowns. Their slogan for their crackdowns was "Enforced because we care." So hammer and sickle, enforced because we care, and Soviet Moscow. Then later, when he was in New York as a student, his senior year at Columbia, when the pro-Palestinian mob started invading campus and were trying to take over a building, he got to experience selective non-enforcement. So he had selective enforcement in Moscow, selective non-enforcement. He's holding a door at the Columbia campus against 1,000 Palestinian protesters who were smashing windows and stuff.
Yeah, it's anarcho tyranny. It's anarcho tyranny. Yeah,
and security doesn't show up, and cops don't come. When they do come, they drop all charges. Where he's been through a criminal prosecution for 3 years over protesting illegal arrests. These people smashing windows and invading have their charges dropped overnight. Right. And so that selective enforcement, selective non-enforcement is dramatic. Now, I was thrilled by both of these things, because I was so grateful that he had read all the right stories, that he trained these moments, and that he was standing in the right place, loyal to the right things at the right times. He was ready to be a character in his own scene. And that ultimately comes from Narnia. That comes from Lord of the Rings. That comes from great stories when you're a kid. So that's my spiel about the importance.
I love it. No, I mean, I could listen to it all day. To love what's truly lovely, to desire what's truly desirable, and experience your highest human flourishing. There you go. You could coin that. I just want 5%. That's all. No, I want money too.
Right.
This is great. I mean, I love it, and it is. That just so warms my heart. It's just interesting too, just to kind of close the loop on that. The profound observation that you made, that Disney today is more or less the harvest of seeds that were sown decades ago, when we thought it was wholesome, but you could start to really sense, that this, I've heard it put this, that the secular always by its nature is rooted in the sacred. It's a cheap imitation, as it were, of truly eternal sacred things. And then, but you always have it. Every society has it in some way, shape, or form. But every once in a while, secularism will break away from the sacred and try to do its own thing. And it seems to me that's what we were seeing in the 40s, 50s, 60s, is secularism was really trying to do its own thing. And then it just begins to degenerate. It just begins to rot, because there's no eternal sacred to renew it and replenish it and worship, and it's just all gone. So it ends up just done. And the good news is that it ends up becoming compost, and all of a sudden the sacred seeds blossom again. But it seems to be, I really like, and I hope everyone really got what you just said there, that what we're seeing today in many respects is the harvest of seeds that were planted, even in a time we thought we were doing pretty good. We lived on a lot of borrowed capital, it seems to me.
We really did. And this actually is really important for conservatives to understand. Do not try to get back to the 1980s. Right. Do not try to get back to the late 70s. If we are down in the bottom of a slide, face down in a mud puddle in terms of morality, law, culture, which we are, like, we have a Supreme Court justice talking about the importance of castrating small children.
Yeah, it's insane.
This is totally nuts. We're face down in a mud puddle at the bottom of a slide. When people say, man, I wish we could just get up to the middle of the slide.
Right.
I wish we could get up 3/4 of the way up the slide. So we need to get off the slide.
Right.
If we get back
off the slide,
we're going to go right back down. And so when people try to get back, when they don't understand the seeds that were planted, and they don't understand where they were planted. Now, incidentally, I'm not saying don't watch Little Mermaid. I'm not saying don't watch Aladdin. I watched those with my kids when they were little, and we had conversations. Their brains were on, and I talked to them about not being baby birds that just swallow anything. They need to actually resist it, be active viewers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a total boycott when they were kids. It was, hey, tell me what Ariel did wrong.
Mhm.
Like, what should she have done? How, like, where is she stupid? Where
Right.
what would have been a smarter, better move? Same thing with Jasmine and so on. That
Right.
doesn't mean we didn't enjoy those older Disney movies. We did, but I was always trying to activate them as resistors and as people who sat in judgment over what they consumed rather than just letting what they consumed shape
Yeah,
them.
passive, right?
So yeah, so we have to do better, but we also can't just get a little way back up the slide. We got to do better.
We got to do better. And speaking of, it sounds to me you have a pretty awesome partnership with Angel Studios. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Angel Studios has been part of that parallel economy. They've been part of that rebellion in crafting an alternative way. And I'm really excited to be partnering with them on a few things that we've been producing with my team here at Canon Plus. And I'm only one of the owners of Canon, I should say. I'm not the owner of Canon, but with our teams over here at Canon Plus and my production company, we have ticked off one of the bucket list items for me, which was family nature documentaries that were not atheistic and did not attack faith and wallow in despair, and also did not treat mankind like a cancer on the earth.
Right.
Talking about us in terms of stewardship and dominion, the earth having given to us, and we are the stewards of the earth, as opposed to being scolded for climate change.
Right.
Talking about this empty, meaningless universe. So all the way back to the year 2000, I think my first date with my wife, I told her one of the things I wanted to do was to make a faithful conservative Christian nature documentaries. And so I've been able to do that with Angel. We just released the first episode. We're dropping one episode a month through December. We've done 2 features, The Riot and the Dance Earth, The Riot and the Dance Water, and then now we're doing this Riot and the Dance series. And it's so much fun to get crews out and celebrate the amazing engineering and design and humor and personality that exists in every corner of this planet, and to represent it to children, not as chaos, not as meaningless, but as the art of an artist, as the creation of a creator. And then also to not scold the viewer, not scold the child and try to make them feel guilty somehow for being a human and for having a minivan that they ride around in the back seat of. But really trying to rightly order nature and celebrate it as artistry. So the Riot and the Dance series is now dropping all month on Angel, and we're very, very grateful to be partnering with them on that. In addition, we also have a documentary, a feature-length documentary called The Lunatic Farmer about Joel Salatin and about regenerative farming, which is fundamentally really a Christian pursuit, a conservative Christian pursuit that got kind of hijacked by hippie libs for a while. But Joel Salatin and his family have been pushing one direction in an anti-government, pro-freedom, regenerative farming way that's been phenomenal. And so Lunatic Farmer is dropping. We partnered with Angel on that. It'll be on Canon Plus later. Angel this month, Riot and the Dance on Angel this month. And we're looking to kind of go further up and further in how much we can create and produce in the parallel economy. I'm still trying to invade the mainstream. It's like throw lifelines of content out there. We're doing that as well. We're not in some kind of boycott. But those people I work with, they know who I am. They know I'm I guess they would call me a cis white male. All the way back, when I'm a straight white guy with 5 kids, they know that we're not necessarily on the same page. But
that is the last term I would ever associate with you, Nate, is cis.
Cis.
You are the farthest thing from a cis. I know it's CIS, but oh my God.
I know. But yeah, it's fun. And when they want to make money, then we'll talk and we work together. Right. But when they're feeling like pushing their lies, then I'm the wrong guy to call.
We're done. No, I absolutely love it, gang. This is why I said you got to click on the link below and check out Canon Plus and everything that they have available to you. It's a treasure trove of imaginative riches. What can people do to help support you and your mission in both book and film? You're part of building this parallel economy. What can we do to help?
I think honestly, wherever you see people laboring to build infrastructures that are not answerable to Babylon, try to support them. If you're able to subscribe to Angel, do so. If you're able to subscribe to Canon Plus, do that. If you can support Matt Walsh's movies, do that. It's like you want to anywhere where somebody is resisting, like just try to be supportive. But the single most important thing people can do, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is that they can labor to be faithful characters in their own moments and in their own stories, loyal to God and to his truth, his goodness, and all the beauty he's crafted. And then also be faithful in how they educate their kids and how they train their kids, training active rebels, resistors of lies, people who are very, very difficult to deceive. If everybody starts doing that in their own home within their own reach, then we are getting off the slide. We're finally off the slide, and this culture can start going in a healthier and healthier direction. Support those people who are trying to build infrastructures that are not answerable to Molech in any way, but really work and labor to learn and grow as individuals and to be faithful in your own moments and to your own people. I think that's absolutely critical right now.
Doesn't come out very well as a saying, but make wonder great again. But then it becomes Mawa. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah. Sounds like a franchise. We're ready. Let's go.
Let's go, Mawa. That's all right. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Gang, make sure to click on that link below. Check out Nate's podcast, Stories for Soul Food. Check out all the resources over at Canon Plus, streaming resources and the like. Both the podcast and the press are going to absolutely blow you away and nourish that imagination shows so we can experience our ultimate human flourishing. ND Wilson, dude, you are the best. I could talk to you for hours. Well, we've talked to you into the wee hours. But I feel so weird chatting with you during the daytime.
Yeah. Let's schedule something at 2 a.m. when I'm at my best.
That's right. And he is, believe it or not. He's very good. He's very sharp. Love you, Nate. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet. Gang, we all know that our country witnessed a moment we'll never forget. We saw a man get shot, stand up, fist in the air, and in defiance scream, "Fight!" Well, sadly, too many of us have lost our fight, and that's exactly how the globalists want it. They want us weak, out of shape, full of estrogen and microplastics. This is why we're so excited to partner with Choq. Choq offers a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, your focus, detoxify your body, and based on clinical studies, boost your testosterone. In fact, the ingredients in the Choq Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone by 87% in just 21 days. Unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you're going to feel the difference, and they have the clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Choq subscription for life. You heard that right. For life. Just go to choq.com. That's spelled CHOQ.com. And use the promo code Turley. That's 25% off any subscription for life, and you can cancel anytime. Choq is made in America, and their all-American customer service team is standing by to assist you. It's time to make men's vitality great again. Get Choq today. That's choq.com, CHOQ.com. Promo code Turley. You can text or call them at 50-CHOQ-3000. That's 50-CHOQ-3000.